Hello, everyone. Courtney here. Let's get into something tangible in this episode. I used to study and practice magic tricks for years and years, and still have lots of magic props in my possession. I mainly enjoy doing close up magic with emphasis on cards. It's something about a normal, boring, everyday item of a deck of cards that always drew me, with 52 perceived random possibilities. Now, a magician never reveals her tricks, but today I will reveal a few one sentence benefit statement tricks for you. There are just as many ways to make an OSBS as there are grains in a pile of sand. Okay, maybe not that many, but definitely hundreds of different tactics and opinions. I will be sharing mine with you within my own practice of how I do it. This is where you really get to know your product. In fact, I would call it the third date with your product. The first date is all of the market research you did to learn about it. The second date was making your virtual or physical prototype, and now we're at date 3. This is where the tables really start to turn. Are you ready? Welcome to episode number 15. Let's get into it.
Where inventing, passion, and hard work intersect. Welcome to the Serial Inventing Podcast. Bite-sized, perspective-altering episodes on serial inventing and beyond. From motivating key tips on product licensing to obstacle-busting conversations on transitioning to a full-time serial product developer. Buckle your seatbelt, because you're in for a ride. Warning, this podcast may motivate you to make wild decisions that will propel you forward in your inventing career and hijack more of your time for your passion. If you aren't ready to make it happen, then this podcast isn't for you.
Now, please remember that this podcast is for serial inventors. The last thing I want is for anyone to listen to this and take it in as strictly knowledge over wisdom. Wisdom having perspective and good judgment wrapped neatly around information. It provides context. Knowledge is merely information, and that is something anyone can find in research. Wisdom includes understanding when it's used. A quote by an unknown author compared them both and says this: knowledge is knowing what to say. Wisdom is knowing when to say it. If you haven't created many one-sentence benefit statements and had an expert help you learn that wisdom, the rest of this episode will feel a bit like pure knowledge. Only when you have gone through that experience can you truly see the importance of these notes within relatability about one-sentence benefit statements. Tread with caution. So we need to remember that the one-sentence benefit statement describes your product's main benefit to the end user. It's a teaser to get someone interested in wanting to see your sell sheet or to read the rest of your sell sheet. Placed at the top of your sell sheet, the OSBS should grab someone's attention but not give away what the product is. Intrigue plus mystery equals interest. Often the OSBS is the snazziest key benefit. Your OSBS is the Superman of the sell sheet. I feel like immediately starting at the OSBS for the marketing copy on your sell sheet puts you at work for the hardest thing first. What I like to do is work backwards and write down all of my benefits of my product first. This is my first trick: making a list of all of your product's benefits before you find your OSBS. Benefits are much easier to figure out because they are often the reason why you thought of the product in the first place. They are easy to write down. Because we as serial inventors should already know the difference between benefits and features, I am just writing down all of the benefits. I try to keep writing as much as I can to see if I can think of everything in relation to my product that one might be interested in knowing to understand the product, including how it's being used or how it fits into a day in the life of someone using it, as that information can be used well for captions. Then I pause and think if there are any features that I must put in the list that couldn't be covered by a benefit. I also think about expanding my benefits to include context to how it connects to a feature. This is my second trick. Let me give an example. Let's say my product flips hamburger patties automatically when they are ready to be flipped. But to make it more tangible, I might add the feature and have it say flips patties automatically when ready through temperature sensing design. Now, this new longer benefit statement is more tangible and appeals to those inventor relations people who put more emphasis on technology, perceived IP, how something is done, costs, how it might be marketed on their platforms, and feels a bit less markety to them in a good way. It makes the benefit feel backed up. And we as inventors, when perceived by a company, look less crazy and more serious and professional. It's a win win for both sides. But it's not for every benefit. Sometimes there isn't a feature that makes sense to accompany a benefit, or sometimes a benefit is so strong it shouldn't give some of its power up to a feature. Use this trick wisely and only when it makes sense for a benefit to be backed by its feature counterpart. Of 5 benefit sentences, I often have a ratio of 1 or 2 of the 5 benefit sentences at a time that include a mentioned feature in the sentence. I'd also recommend placing the feature at the end of the sentence because often you want the first part to catch their attention. But if it doesn't sound good or you want it to feel more like a punch, you can try to reverse it. The one above would then be temperature sensing design flips patties automatically when ready. I think this is one where both sound good. However, I most often place the feature at the end since consumers and companies are more often in touch with their emotional benefit side first. My third trick is making sure that all benefits are relatable, meaning two things. One, they are not surfacey, and two, they are not able to be used for another product. Let me explain. Back to our hamburger flipper. If I just said, it saves time, that is very generic. And many products can do that. Save time. We need to dig a little deeper and really get to know our product. Here's a mini trick. Pretend that there is more to your benefit sentence and you have to continue it. It saves time doing what? Cooking? Okay. So it saves time cooking so you can spend your time in more meaningful areas? Okay. So let's provide that context then. What about spend less time flipping burgers? Spend less has a positive connotation to it, and flipping burgers makes it more relatable, and flipping burgers feels not very meaningful. So we turned saves time into spend less time flipping burgers. It now feels unique to your product. If it feels generic, it is. If it can be used for another product out there, change it. You want to get to the emotional benefit as much as possible, and often that means digging deeper multiple times to get to the core of it. This is where you really get to understand your product because you finally start to challenge the status quo of what you think you know about it. This is where it really gets its own legs and separates from you. Challenge your mind, and you will reap the rewards. Now, this may not always be possible, but I know I have done a good job with my benefit sentences when I can look at each one and say that each one feels unique to my product and nothing else out there. Though we use 3 to 6 benefit sentences in our sell sheet, I really like to use them as options for my OSBS, almost as if they are trying to be in the running as an OSBS. I think this is important because I believe that an OSBS is stating what is different about your product versus its competitors. At this point, I don't care too much about the length of benefit statements, as I'd prefer wordy, relatable ones over short, generic ones. In fact, once I make it relatable, I can usually cut out less powerful parts of the sentence to make it shorter if needed. But trying to make them short from the get go, I feel is doing us a creative disservice. If you are having a hard time coming up with good benefits that could be in the running for an OSBS, I would go back to remembering why you created the product concept in the first place and write that down. Fall in love with the problem you are solving, not the solution. This is my fourth trick. Though your product is the solution, companies really do see your product as what it is doing for the consumer. Most often, it is solving a consumer problem, and that problem needs to be very clearly relayed in the sell sheet and in a mass appeal way. How is the problem being solved for different types of consumers? Does it solve multiple problems? Why is your solution better than ones out there? Why should the company care about solving this problem? Is it in their mission statement? Do they have similar products already selling? Most people within serial inventing learn the importance of starting the hit list before they really start the product. So, knowing who you will be pitching to will help you make the sell sheet. Though you are gearing the sell sheet towards consumers, it's the companies you're showing it to. So, make sure you hit their audience's pain points so they see the relevance in your product. My fifth trick is to then, after I have 4 to 10 benefit sentences, to grab my top two that hit the biggest benefit the hardest. Often, one of your benefits will sound like a descriptor, and we pick that as one of them to consider since it often is an accurate depiction of what the product is, such as the patty flipper that makes you cook like a pro through automatic flipping. If we chose that one as an OSBS, we would need to remove the name Patty Flipper so we don't say what it is, and remove the feature as features most often don't belong in an OSBS. So this candidate would read as follows: Cook like a pro. It feels a bit less exciting now, huh? A bit generic. You can't even figure out what this product could do. And the other candidate is often less of a descriptor and more of the biggest benefit. For this product, maybe it's cook the perfect burger every time, as it pays homage to being able to cook rare, medium, and well done burgers with ease. But do you think people will understand that perfect is referring to temperature? Why don't we make it a bit clearer and try this one? Cook rare, medium, and well done patties without the guesswork. Note how both of these don't talk about cooking like a pro, as it's a bit generic without context of mentioning the temperature. And the real benefit to flipping a patty automatically is not about less time so you can do other things, but is about not having to babysit your burger to get the right temperature. In fact, never babysit your burger again would be a great tagline, as it makes the sell sheet come full circle back to the importance of the benefit that the OSBS is getting at. Now that we have an excellent, well thought out OSBS and didn't give our magic trick away by saying what the product is, now we can get a bit more specific in how the magic of the OSBS is happening by means of the first benefit sentence. Often, the runner up of the OSBS I place in the first benefit sentence slot, as often it's a descriptor. And now that I've got someone's attention on the product, I need them to spend very little time actually understanding what I am trying to license. I expose the trick in the first benefit sentence. My sixth trick. The first benefit to this product could be the one in the running that we had originally, the patty flipper that makes you cook like a pro through automatic flipping. Or, even better, the patty flipper that automatically flips your patty at the temperature you want. A good second benefit after that could continue that train of thought before flipping. See what I did there? Before flipping? Two other important benefits. It could be choose how you like your burger, rare, medium, or well done, and let it do the rest. At this point, with your OSBS locked and your first benefit solidified, everything else becomes easy and also not as important. You just have the rest of the 2 to 5 benefits, maybe a tagline, a descriptor name like automatic patty flipper or temp right patty flipper, and some captions, probably how to's below your photos. All in all, I will say it gets easier and you get faster every time you do it. Practice makes a good OSBS and a good sell sheet. Keep coming up with ideas, and having difficulty with getting to know your product will be a thing of the past. Which was your favorite trick? Oh, and for my last trick, I will disappear. Thanks for tuning in and taking a few bites with me today. And remember, serial inventors don't make excuses, they make it happen. See you soon.